Welcome back. I've been making this one for 5 years. Why are we doing this with 68-year-old men out there that aren't even wearing glasses? I still wonder that. Welcome back. It is another episode of Pardon the Punctuation. Ed and I are here. We're still missing Jeff, who continues to have to work. We miss him.
Sucks.
But we also have a special guest this week. Clay Snowden joins the show, best friend of the show, the only one who ever really got us gifts. But we loved him before that even. So
I want an update on the gifts. Oh, Ed's is still there?
Mine is upstairs on display.
Jeff's is behind it.
Have you all cracked into them yet?
No,
I'll never plan on cracking into that.
I will also. If mine ends up open, it's because a kid got into it, and that's
actually
a whole different.
Actually, regret not having you sign it before you left that day.
Am I really a special guest still, or am I just a guest?
I think you're just fam.
I was writing the tweet right now, and it says special guest.
I like it.
I'm writing the tweet too. I don't know what you're writing.
It's fine. Welcome back, though, Clay. We're getting away from the Bearcats a little bit tonight, so apologies to those who tuned in to hear a riveting discussion right off the rip about the Temple game. We will do a preview on Temple later on in the show, as we also will recap the win over UCF on Sunday as well later on. But prior to that, because pitchers and catchers are officially in Arizona and Clay is available, which apparently is no small task with a new puppy in the mix. As that was the first real big buy for the newly married couple, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, that was a decision long time in the making, but happy that we did that. Plus, I don't know if you all know, I have my own. I co-host a podcast now on fantasy baseball, so that takes out
on fantasy now
at least 2 days a week, plus the hours of prep that goes into it. So it's been busy for this off season.
Fair enough. Start calling you Mr. Roto.
Yeah.
How is the Just Baseball gig going for you though?
Oh, it's going great. Just Baseball's been doing pretty well actually, and adding new podcasts, it seems like every other week. I mean, they've got all kinds of different podcast channels now, and a bunch of writing content. They're doing a lot with the World Baseball Classic, doing previews for that and whatnot. So it's going well. But yeah, the Just Fantasy Baseball podcast, Spotify, YouTube, it's everywhere, man.
Are you doing any betting, like sports gambling podcasts? Because
they do.
Okay, good. Because I just spent all my gambling money.
It's called It's actually called Not Gambling Advice. Peter Apple is the host, and that guy spends far too much time breaking down gambling. I jumped in one of his live shows one time, and he was talking about like wind direction and why he was betting a certain bet because of that. So if you're into like someone really, really breaking down why they're betting certain things, jump in there.
By the way, if you are not already signed up for Betfred, download the app for Betfred and put in the promo code BCJ111 for the special promotions the Bearcat Journal can provide you, and also to help support us here at Bearcat Journal. We appreciate that in advance. Again, that's promo code BCJ111 on Betfred. Sorry, just shameless plugging here. A little different than when we first had you on once upon a time, my friend.
No,
It is a
Aaron would
lot
still do his
different.
shameless plugs, but just they didn't get us any money.
Back in the day, I used to get a nice list of questions, a nice rundown, but I guess I've advanced past that, which is great. And I guess I can trust you all not to ask questions. Now, Chad, he might be a little off the wall with some questions. So,
He's a wild card.
You never know what he's going to ask.
Correction, Aaron. I forgot to tell you this. Happened in all the chaos of today. I didn't like the 111. I thought it was dumb.
Oh,
So the new promo code, starting right now, Bearcat, all caps, Bearcat.
all right. Easier. Far
Much
easier.
easier to remember. I wanted it to be a little bit more flowing and not like, I thought the 111 was stupid. So I asked them if they could change that, and they have changed that.
I don't disagree.
Now, go to the app, go to the website, and they'll be asked for a promo code at the end when you're registering, and just type in Bearcat, all caps.
Singular.
Bearcat,
Okay.
all caps.
All right. Just wanted to make sure.
Okay, there you go.
There we go.
Hi, Clay.
Hey, Chad, how are you?
Terrible, but that's not really for this show. You
Ed's
guys have
wearing
a
the
good
shirt.
show. Thank you, Ed. Much appreciated, my brother. Much appreciated. You guys have a good show.
Bye, Chad.
All right.
Thrifty Wallace says
Oh.
Bailey is cute as hell.
Well, thank you. She is cute.
But
For
you
those
got
of you
yourself.
who are wondering who Bailey is, that's the name of my dog.
That's the
Oh, you
golden
did not bring the
retriever.
dog on the show when we went live. How did he know?
Maybe the dog can make an appearance in a little bit.
Following at Clay_Snow, SNO, no W. You might be able to see pictures of Bailey. Ed,
Oh, yeah, you can. Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah.
In any case, how did you come to the decision on a golden retriever?
I did not come to that decision.
I thought it was a golden
well,
doodle.
Well played. Well played.
It's a golden retriever, something my wife's been wanting forever, and I have been denying it for a very long time. And then I booked a fly fishing trip to Wyoming for 10 days this summer, and yeah, I had to give and take somewhere, so she got the dog.
Happy wife, happy life. You're learning. Well done.
Yep.
Was your fan Wow. Was your wife a big fan of Homeward Bound back in the day?
Homer Bailey?
Homeward Bound? Homeward Bound.
Homeward Bound, the movie.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Believe it or not, it's not come up in discussion before.
Maybe a little older than her, Ed. That movie.
No, I know that movie.
I don't know that your wife may know that movie. Who knows?
2 years, a little less than 2 years younger, so potentially.
All right.
That was my first introduction to him.
Well, Clay, when did pitchers and catchers report to Arizona? How long ago?
Well, they kind of trickled in, right, as they always do. And right now, I mean, okay, so everything right now is all about this clip, the Ellie De La Cruz clip. Do y'all know what I'm talking about? That's been going around Twitter. So pitchers and catchers just reported there is a live BP, simulated BP type thing. Ellie De La Cruz in the batter's box, right-handed against Brandon Williamson. The timing of this was kind of funny. Brandon Williamson was acquired in the Suarez-Winker trade from Seattle. Big-time prospect, top 100 guy, not great in 2022. So a lot of people were kind of wondering about him. I believe it was Charlie Goldsmith put out a tweet about how there's all this rave around Brandon Williamson, how much better he's looking, yada yada. A typical spring training tweet,
He's
right?
supposed to start the first game for spring training,
Saturday, right?
Okay.
So there was a live video of Ellie De La Cruz against Brandon Williamson. If you just type in Ellie De La Cruz, you can find that, I'm sure. But that was the buzz right now. And that's where we are in Red's Twitter. We're buzzing for any type of at-bats, any Ellie De La Cruz content that we can get. And now it's Brandon Williamson as well. We are looking for all the content we can get from Arizona.
Oh, I found it.
I have no idea how to spell Ellie De La Cruz?
It's
The least surprising.
very simple.
ELL.
ELLY
That's what I did. Okay.
space
Space.
space LA space CRUZ.
Oh, there he is.
There he is. Just a lot of. I'm watching a lot of taken pitches right now. Does he take him? Does he take him yard?
Well, you're gonna have to watch to find out, aren't you?
It's a 2-minute clip. Are we just gonna sit here with me watching? Man,
I just wanted to mention like where Red's Twitter is. Like they're hungry for anything right now. They're watching like a bad phone camera angle of Ellie De La Cruz.
it is a pretty bad camera.
But you know,
angle.
it's that time of the year, right? Everyone's starting to get excited. It seems like this time of the year is where like everyone's put aside the bitching about team construction and the tanking or whatever you call it, rebuild. And they start to get a little bit excited to see baseball again. It's a great time of the year. I love spring training. First game Saturday. The Reds roster as a whole is a little patchy, if you will. They did bring in a couple of bats that potentially could help. Now, the first move they really brought in was Kevin Newman, right? That's a depth move at shortstop.
Yeah.
A lot of shortstop prospects. That's just a guy to fill the roster. But a couple other moves. One was bringing in Will Myers, who used to play for the Padres, Royals, Rays, once a top prospect, hits left-handed pitching well, can play first base, corner outfield, center in a pinch. Not a great fielder. A guy who should have a little bit more home run power in Great American. He has pretty decent pop. I'm not going to act like he's some, he's not going to hit a million home runs or anything like that, but I will look up to see how many home runs he would be projected in Great American as I struggle to do so and try to filibuster some time.
Do you remember when
another
he played?
guy's Chad Pinder. Chad Pinder used to play for the A's. Pretty decent player, more of a bench guy, platoon guy, another guy who can hit left-handed hitting well. And he does have some pop. It's like home run or nothing with him. Like it's pretty mediocre overall, but a lot of people are getting excited about him just because of, having some pop in the bat and maybe some opportunity. He's like a older guy. I really don't see much of a needle mover, but a trade that they made, I believe a week or two ago, was acquiring Will Benson, left-handed 6'5" outfielder from the Guardians. And that's a guy who a lot of people like his profile. I remember I was doing a live show with Aram Layton of Just Baseball when the trade happened, and Aram gave all kinds of stats about him and what he likes about him. And he immediately said that he could be, of the younger guys, the one to produce the most this season. He did get some playing time last year for the Guardians and is at least a name to keep an eye on. I like that trade that they made. The Will Myers stat, now he didn't play a full season. He was injured last year. He had last season he had 7 home runs. If he would have played all of his games in Great American, he would have had 15 home runs. So maybe he can take advantage of the ballpark.
That's Will Myers, who spells his name with only one L.
Which is why I was struggling to find that stat.
Yeah.
Looks like Will Benson had 55 at bats with Cleveland this year.
Yeah, and he was pretty bad but it's a tiny sample size. And this guy is like unreal pop. If you watch his at bats from the minors, I mean, the dude absolutely can crush the ball. And the perfect type of player to fill some at bats with and just bring into the organization. The reason why he was traded is because Cleveland had a crunch on their 40-man roster. They have some outfielders, a lot of corner outfielders that can do kind of the same thing as him. So they were willing to move him. Similar situation that they had with Brandon Phillips back in the day. Guy traded from Cleveland, crunch on the 40-man, didn't really have a spot for him. Cincinnati got him, and that worked out well. I'm not saying this will work out the same way, but worth a flyer.
That would be wild if it worked out
Yeah.
even close to what Brandon Phillips was.
Yeah.
That dude.
So you brought up that the large offseason talk has been about Phil Castellini opening mouth, inserting foot, and without getting too in the weeds on that, how are we supposed to really support this team while simultaneously loathing everything that it is that management says and stands for?
I saw a tweet today that it's been 10,000 days since the Reds advanced in the playoffs. 10,000.
That's a lot of
So
days.
if you are still a fan, I don't see you quitting now.
So you are also where are you going to go?
Yeah. So to me, it's okay. I
FC
mean,
Cincinnati starts on Saturday, so
what channel are they on, Ed?
Apple TV.
Oh, that's good. That's really great.
What channel?
They did just re-sign. They did just re-sign with ESPN Cincinnati, and so they'll be on that.
What is even that? What is ESPN?
I'll look for that,
1360
okay?
Homer, 1360.
I'll look for that for sure.
What
But
channel are the Reds on?
700.
Valley Sports, baby, bankruptcy.
That's a good point, actually. Yeah. We're thinking
right.
they're going to get picked up by Waycross Cable Access here in Cincinnati.
We are not thinking that. Speak for yourself.
To answer your question, Aaron,
Yes.
I mean, I understand frustration. We should all be frustrated. I always say it has to do a lot with perspective. And if you're a fan who can only be happy or only enjoy the team that you're rooting for because you think they have a chance to win a World Series, then I mean, I don't know what to tell you because that has not happened.
I'm not that fan, but I also don't want to. I also don't want to feel taken advantage of as a fan by ownership. Look, I don't care if they win the World Series or not. If I did, I had given up on the Reds a long time ago. I say that to say I still want them to make attempts to be competitive. I understand you're a small market team, and that puts you behind the 8 ball automatically. But I want to see them making attempts, and I know that they did that just several years ago.
Yeah.
But I don't feel like the reasons that were given for the deconstruction of that roster have been on the up and up.
Yeah, and it's hard to say right now because what happened was they spent money. It kind of worked out. I mean, they went to the playoffs. It was a kind of a BS playoffs, right, in COVID, but
sure.
That team kind of fell apart, and it is what it is. But what they've done now is they're trying to revamp, and you can quote the payroll. And while that should be increased, and I don't want to sound like I'm making excuses because I think I wanted them to sign a center fielder. I wanted them to sign a starting pitcher even this year, in a year that they should not, or theoretically are not going to be competing. I wanted them to spend more money. But you also want to give young players a chance, right? These players that they traded for, like, this is why you traded these players, to get these young players. And just the way that the system works is these players are going to be inexpensive when they're young. So if a lineup had Matt McClain, Ellie De La Cruz, Jonathan India, insert all these top prospects, top players, it could be good, but it's also going to be inexpensive right now. Now they did sign, like we said, Will Myers, a couple smaller moves. I say this is the last year of like me even like being like, okay, it's all right, like whatever they needed to kind of, because I didn't think the team that they had built with a bunch of power that just wasn't working out, the Moustakas deal completely crumbled.
Woof.
Like, I did not think that team was built to be. I did not see that team going far in a playoff run or anything. Like, they spent some money, but was it really that great of a team? No. So
the Moustaka signing itself was strange when you already had a third baseman anyway, and he was not built to be a second baseman.
No. So to me, it's like, okay, if you want to play young players and kind of suck this year, that's fine. But like, I want to see aggression going into next offseason.
You have to. You have Votto coming off the books. You have Moustakas' contract is still being paid this year, and that's coming off the books next year. I agree. You absolutely have to. Next year would be inexcusable to continue to do the same shit that they've been
And they
doing.
should have a roster of prospects that are coming up that are going to be, 4 or 5 years of inexpensive contracts relative to play, right? You have to take advantage of that as a small market team. So you can afford, with no big money on the books, you can afford to go out and sign free agents, make smart trades. If you don't do either one of those, then buy out the arbitration years and get these players locked in for multiple years, right?
Sure. And you have to hope that roughly, I would think, with this many young kids, to where we're literally having arguments on Twitter about whether the rookie of the year from 2 years ago, I guess last year, it wasn't last year,
2 years ago.
is old enough to be a leader on this team. But you have to hope that some of these guys work out. Roughly three or four of these young kids, you would hope, work out to blossoming stars in this league.
So I wanted to touch on that leadership thing. I don't know where that got started or how that got started. I just get on Twitter and I saw, I don't remember who it was, making a case for leadership roles. And I was like, yeah, like a leader doesn't have to be a 9 times World Series champ. And there's plenty of successful players that are not leaders. That's a quality you have. And it's not something that you necessarily have to like earn over time with championship rings, in my opinion. I mean, the Chicago Blackhawks drafted Jonathan Toews, which I know this is so off the wall, and they gave him the C on his jersey, which in hockey is a humongous deal, as a rookie. Like, that happens sometimes. Sometimes you have young players that are leaders. So I think leadership is not necessarily something that you have to win a bunch or whatever.
Well, and are you really going to say that Tyler Stevenson and Jonathan India shouldn't be leaders on this team? Because even if you had older guys here, even if Moose was still here, I would hope that you'd still be leaning into India and Stevenson as leaders on this team.
What you want is, in the team where they are in their life cycles, you want younger core players to be leaders, core players with some experience. So like you said, India, Stevenson, like you want those guys to be leading your team because you want them to be the best players on the next successful team, right? Mm-hmm. Or one of the best players on the next successful team. I wouldn't expect like a Ellie De La Cruz to come in and be a league clubhouse leader or anything, but it's also just like a strange thing to talk about because we're not in the clubhouse and we don't know what goes on or who's vocal, who's not, and how leadership roles are established. And it's really hard to say, and it's kind of just an odd thing to talk about, but that's what happens in early February, right? We don't have anything else to talk about.
Unreal, Ed. Unreal.
What?
Turn your volume down on your video.
I'm sorry. I was trying to pull up video for. Forget it. Go ahead.
It's watching soccer on ESPN 9.
I'm not watching soccer, although the U.S. versus Guatemala, I think, is on right now. But
can't believe I missed that.
Sounds riveting. So Joey Votto still on this team, last year of his contract, and I know there was an article from The Athletic. I didn't get a chance to read it today, but he's playing chess and he has found a partner. I believe is it Hunter Green?
I didn't get to open that article today. I did. I saw the headline come across my phone.
I know he's playing chess. But
he plays a lot of chess. He puts a lot of videos out.
I've also seen people talking about how irritated they've been with Joey Votto making things last year about himself, as he was in the radio booth, and running around the stadium.
I saw that tweet.
We're gonna get upset about that.
That was a big brain take. Like, I don't agree with the take, but like, shout out to that guy for having the take. Like,
it's a horrible take. Not shout out to that guy, whoever it was.
Oh, it's Will Benson is who he's playing chess with, apparently.
Will Benson, okay.
Oh, we were just talking about him. All right.
Yeah.
From the Cleveland Guardians.
There you
Uh,
go.
I-
Joey did have a quote today that Jeffrey or Geoff, sorry, wanted us to bring up. Basically talking about what you were just, what you guys were just talking about, and the clubhouse and ownership. And he said, "We are aware of it." Or sorry, Joey Votto was asked about Reds fans' frustrations, and he said, "We are aware of it, and we deserve it. We have to play better. It's a failure of ours to leave such a supportive fan base dissatisfied. The cynicism, in my opinion, is completely justified."
Good job.
How about that word, cynicism?
I know that's a big one for you.
And I used it,
Well, you read it. Good job.
but I pronounced it correctly.
If you could use it in your own sentence, I'd be very impressed.
Like, I don't know what you want him to say, because he's not going to
Yeah.
trash
He's
ownership
not
and
gonna-
say, by trashing ownership or GM or anything like that, you're trashing the players in your clubhouse. Because the only way you could say it is, we're not bringing in good enough players. And how's that going to look? Like, I don't read too much into that quote, because I just think it's kind of a nothing burger, because I don't know what else there is to say besides, yeah, we didn't play well enough. But the reality is, like, the team itself is last season, which I'm sure he's referring to, was just simply not a good enough roster to be competitive. I know that they had injuries, and I know they had kind of worst case scenario for the season. But even then, like, that team wasn't going to compete for, in the playoffs or anything like that. So I don't know what else he's supposed to say to that question.
I don't think there's anything else he can say about that question.
Thrifty Waller says, "I'm more upset about the Reds front office saying the quiet parts out loud than starting rebuild. They have torn down too late every time and weren't on pace to build a contender." And Geoff says, "Clay, I think it's more so he said what Phil should have said last year instead of being hostile to us on opening day."
Yeah, and I think everyone knows Phil's just a complete asshole. Like, there's no beating around the bush, man. There's just nothing you can spin zone to say anything besides Phil Castellini's just kind of an asshole. And I think
the Red sport coat was a dead giveaway.
Yeah. I think that they kind of know that internally too, which is probably why he's kind of been limited, because the few times he's allowed out and allowed to be put in front of a microphone, it's been a disaster.
Putting it kindly.
Yeah. But, this is, I just want to keep reiterating, like, it's okay to be mad. Like, I'm mad about it too. It's all perspective for me. Like, when you go to Outback Steakhouse, if you're pissed when you leave because it wasn't the best fucking steak you've ever had in your life, that's a you issue. That's a perspective issue. When you go there, like, you should know this is probably not going to be the best steak, but whatever. Like, when I go into
it's good, but it's mid, right?
Yeah,
it's all.
When
seasoning.
I go into the red season, I'm not going to be. I'm going to be mad but I'm not going to be like outwardly frustrated and like aggressive, because it wasn't like something wasn't like taken from me, right? It was like I have a idea of what the team's going to be like, and it's probably going to be around that expectation. Like, it's upsetting, but I'm not going to get like mad at each other on Twitter over it.
Okay, Clay, you brought it up. Where is the best steak you've ever had?
And I don't know, but it's not Outback Steakhouse.
Mine would have
all right.
Babies.
All right, so we got roughly what until 10 o'clock with you?
10, so something like that.
All right, well, I just want to make sure that I'm pacing where I want to go with everything.
Gotcha.
So,
also, the question about steak wasn't a good question, is what you're trying to say. I got you. Go ahead.
No, I just
it
made sense when he answered your question.
You don't have to explain. You don't have to explain yourself. Go ahead.
What else did you want him to?
Go ahead.
Where's the best steak you've ever had, Ed?
Jeff Ruby's.
Okay, great. Aaron.
Or actually, my grill, but then Jeff Ruby's comes in.
Man, that's such. Oh man, I got a big green egg and a freaking Blackstone guy.
I don't have a big green egg.
My grill.
I got a Blackstone and I have a pellet smoker.
If the best steak you've ever had you made, then you need to be making steaks for a living.
What did you make your steak on? If you only have a smoker and a Blackstone.
Well, Aaron, you can make steaks on Blackstones.
Yeah, but I don't know that it would be the best steak you ever had on a Blackstone.
It was before I owned a Blackstone that I made the best steak I've ever had.
I
This
don't
is
believe
riveting.
It was actually 2020. It was during the pandemic.
He remembers it. It was October 13th, man.
Yeah, it's probably like more around April, but it's it's what it is.
He can't remember half the Reds roster, but he can remember the year of the best steak he's ever had.
I simply don't believe him, and I wish he wasn't a liar.
But he is.
Oh, okay, all right, it's fine. It's all right.
All right. So Clay, this season, let's talk pitching, because they've been rebuilding pitching, and currently the big names that we know prior to the moves for a lot of younger guys, the bullpen, I literally don't know anything except Hunter Strickland, which was announced this week, and don't feel great about that. However, clearly you don't either, but we know Hunter Green, we know Nick Lodolo, and we know Graham Ashcraft, who he took one off the foot. Is he okay? I didn't even look.
He'll be fine.
Okay, that's good. Outside of them and up and coming Brandon Williamson, what do we got?
Yeah, so they signed Luke Weaver to a deal, and Luke Weaver's actually a mediocre pitcher. Like, he's not as bad as people might think. He was with Arizona for a couple of years. He came over to Arizona in a trade with the Cardinals for Paul Goldschmidt a few years back as a big-time prospect and didn't really pan out. Went over to Kansas City and was a reliever at the end of last year. But I think he'll slide into that 4 or 5 spot, and he'll be perfectly fine. Like, he's just going to eat some innings, and I don't expect him to be awful. I don't expect him to be great. He'll probably be around a 5 ERA, 5.2 ERA or something, which for the money he was paid, that's about what the production should be. Luis Cessa, bullpen guy, moved to the
Forgot about him.
Yeah, he'll be fighting for a rotation spot.
And I think that's why I forgot about him, because I view him as a reliever, not as a starter. So,
and he might be. They're going to try him at starter, though, as far as I know. And I think he's another guy the guys on this list we're talking about are like number 5 pitchers.
And he came over in that trade with the Yankees where we traded them.
And Justin Wilson came over as well.
Who did we trade them for?
Oh gosh, who was it?
I don't remember.
Let me think on it.
Okay.
Connor Overton, not somebody I'm high on. I know a lot of people liked him, and he had a couple good starts last year before getting injured. There's just not many people who don't throw extremely fast, who are 28, 29 years old and kind of break out. Like his profile, he's not a strikeout pitcher. Like, his profile is just not one that often you see success with. Like, this guy changed some things, and you can read into it and whatnot. To me, he's a depth option or number 5. Justin Dunn, man, he was just so freaking bad last year in AAA and the MLB everywhere. Once a top prospect, they're taking chances on these guys who were once top prospects. Those are all guys like you kind of know what they are. They're number 5 starters. They're guys who can get you some innings. If they were to get released, DFA'd, wouldn't be the biggest deal in the world. I think my hierarchy of that list would go in terms of actual like contributions to the 2023 Reds would be Weaver, Cessa, and you can flip-flop those either one. They're about the same to me. And then Dunn and Overton are both like non-factors to me.
Fun fact, Weaver's nickname is Dream.
Also, Jason Parker was the player to be named later that was traded for Luis Cessa and Justin Wilson.
Yeah, that was a move to free up some money for the Yankees.
Absolutely.
In terms of like non-roster guys who at least were worthy of keeping an eye on, you all talked about Brandon Williamson. He's on the 40-man roster. I think we've touched on that. Andrew Abbott, I believe he was a second-round pick in 2020 or 2021. Abbott pitched well in high A, like extremely well, like unbelievably well. Went to Double A, struggled a bit in the beginning, ironed out some kinks and finished strong in Double-A. Another guy that I'm really high on, a left-handed pitcher. He'll be in camp. Other than that, Connor Phillips is one of the guys that came over in the trade. He was the player to be named later in that Winker trade, Suarez trade. A younger guy, I think he's a couple years away, has nasty movement. If it pans out for him, if he learns not to walk everybody, he could be a really damn good pitcher. But outside of that, in terms of starting pitching, there's just not a lot. Vladimir Gutierrez injured. It's looking pretty bleak. Levi Stout, who came over in the Castillo trade, I picture him more as my comp for him is Jeff Hoffman. And I think the role that he can play is Jeff Hoffman as early as this season.
Bullpen Jeff Hoffman or starter Jeff Hoffman? Because I much prefer bullpen Jeff Hoffman to starter Jeff Hoffman.
So it's both. That's what I mean. Like the role of being able to flip-flop back and forth. And
Jeff Hoffman doesn't have that role. I don't believe he's actually able to flip-flop. He just was asked to.
Exactly. I don't think Levi Stout's like a great pitcher or anything, but
okay.
I think he'll be like fine enough to get MLB innings. And this is exactly why I wanted a kind of higher level, not like super expensive, but a $10 or $15 million pitcher to be brought in to the staff, was not only because it's kind of obvious you have three that could potentially and look like good MLB starters, and then you have nothing. You have a bunch of...
It sucks that Trevor Bauer is a PR nightmare.
I don't think Trevor Bauer would be interested in the Reds right now.
He doesn't want to come back here.
I don't think the Reds, even more so, I don't think the Reds would be interested in Trevor Bauer.
But you also need a vet in the rotation. And I guess Luke Weaver, Luis Sessa can serve as that. But like when you're talking about guys who are kind of back into the rotation guys, like they're not exactly the type of vet I would imagine to be like teaching and leading Lodolo, Green, and Ashcraft, forward in helping them improve, right? Like I wanted someone more established to come in and be able to put up some innings and actually help this team so you could have 4 legitimate MLB level pitchers. I still want to see some more from Ashcraft. If he does not turn out to be a starter for whatever reason, he has the stuff to be like a complete shutdown, but like bullpen option, late inning reliever. He just has that gyro type fastball cutter that is 100 miles an hour. Like he has the stuff to do it. If it doesn't pan out as a starter, but they have options. Brandon Williamson will probably be the first quote unquote prospect to get a chance in the rotation.
The hell are we going to do about closer?
Alexis Diaz, in my opinion, is a closer. I mean, he looked so damn good last year, as you would expect with any bullpen arm, especially rookies. Like he wasn't flawless, but you saw at times what he has. And if I'm, making the decision, I put him in as the closer for the entire season and just see how that plays out.
I like that. I like that move, Clay.
I don't want to deal with Hunter Strickland again. I don't want to deal with random people getting save opportunities. Put him in and just let him see what happens. I mean, I'm looking at the roster right now, and there's not like another guy that's jumping out to me as this guy should be getting an opportunity to be the closer. And I know that term closer and everything, people are kind of moving away from it. And there are a lot more teams using more than one guy, but there's just not a ton of names that are really like, I mean, Lucas Sims is coming back from injury. Maybe he gets the opportunity. Those two guys should be 8 and 9 inning, however order they do it.
All right. So Keith Law puts out his rankings for prospects every year. And I know everyone hates Keith Law, but I am okay with at least his rankings here for prospects. So I'm going to throw you out prospects' names on his top 20 list, and you just give me the first thought you have about these guys. You don't have to go into a big spiel about them. Just kind of a one-sentence thought. Please don't make it a compound sentence.
Are you doing this in order?
I am going to go in order.
1 to 20.
1 to 20.
I've not read Keith Law's rankings. Mostly
I
Are you
have-
doing all 20?
I'm gonna again, as long as
it
Clay
won't
keeps
take
this-
long, Ed.
keeps it tight, we should be able to fly
Yeah.
through this.
I love
can
it
do
when
it.
Aaron does this stuff. Go ahead, Aaron.
Time
Ellie
it.
De La Cruz.
Toolsy. Just can literally be a 45-45 type guy if it all pans out.
So nothing like the guy that they called up last year who was supposed to be the hero at shortstop. All right.
Much
Cam-
more explosive tools.
Good. Cam Collier.
His swing is smooth as butter. I mean, just watch it. Just find a video on Twitter. Also, I could see fast tracked. I talked to Arm about that. A guy who could be in the majors pretty soon for a guy who just turned 18 years old. Like 20, 21-year-olds could be in the majors.
All right. He did not get an invite to spring training, though, so
No.
we will not see him at least quite yet. Noel V. Marte at shortstop, third base.
Bit of a question mark right now, dropping down some rankings. Explosive bat, a lot of power, pull heavy. So much pull heavy that I'm a little bit concerned. And again, I've talked to Arm in depth about all these guys. So anything that's coming off as my thoughts oftentimes are me regurgitating what he says too. Pull heavy guy who needs to figure that out and be willing to poke the ball the other way some or take it up the middle, but oozing with potential. Third baseman.
Maybe with the band of the shift, that should work out for him. Edwin Arroyo.
Probably the best fielding option at shortstop for the Reds in terms of prospects. Struggled a little bit once he came over to the Reds, but still has a lot of pop in his bat for his size. Worst case scenario, he's like Gold Glove caliber shortstop and
All right.
mediocre with the bat.
Chase Petty.
A guy who could be entering the top 100 for the Just Baseball list. Like some super great stuff from him this past year. Not the flamethrower everyone thought he would be. He's learning to pitch more instead of just throw 100 past 17-year-olds at some random ass high school. So he's learning to be a pitcher now, and he's been really effective. A guy that I think everyone should keep an eye on this year.
That'd be a great get for the Sonny Gray trade. Spencer Steer.
High floor. Little bit concerned where the power went. Showed some power in AAA with the Twins. A guy who I think could be like high-level utility player if the Reds go that option with him. But really don't know where he's going to play long-term. But I do like the bat.
Funny, they actually describe him here as being the highest floor guy as well. So Matt McClain.
He's a tough one for me. Struggles with high fastballs, which is concerning going to the MLB, and was a little bit injured last year. I think if everything goes perfect and he's able to, that's your center fielder. Like if he can be a center fielder and hit well enough, like the Reds have this huge hole in center. I don't see an option fixing it. That could be Matt McClain. If I was a betting man, I'd say he ends up as a second baseman. That
We've
kind
already
of profile, not a ton of power, but a good enough hitter. Kind of a guy who I've always said like is a better Nick Senzel in a way, in terms of just like the tools when Nick Senzel was a prospect. Better now, not better as a prospect.
We've already talked enough about Brandon Williamson. I don't want to go back in on him. Connor Phillips, right-handed pitcher.
Tons of movement, crazy curveball, walks too many batters, still very young, probably a 2024 guy, 2024 at some point.
And rounding out the top 10, Andrew Abbott, left-handed pitcher.
Yeah, touched on him a little bit. Definitely a guy that I think could move quickly depending on how this year goes for him. And him and Williamson are kind of going back and forth on that depth chart, right? Left-handed starting pitching. Are they both going to be able to make that rotation long term? But Abbott's definitely a guy to keep an eye on. And an outside chance he could get some innings this year near the end of the year.
All right, even shorter for the next 10 because I still got some other questions I want to get to.
Okay.
Mike Ciani, outfield.
Speed and defense.
Jay Allen, outfield.
Struggled last year, concerning, but a ton of speed.
He's also super young. Victor Acosta.
Guy came over in the Drury trade. Don't know much about him. I don't read much into the complex stats.
Fair enough. Sal Stewart, first base.
A lot of power. Don't know if he'll be able to play third base or move over to first base long term.
Justin Boyd, outfield.
Don't really know much about him. Just drafted him. I know that a lot of people liked him. Is he the guy that was traded for?
He was the Reds' 4th pick coming in the second competitive balance round.
Okay. Yeah, I really don't know much about him because I have not done a ton on the 2022 draftees.
All right. Tyler Callahan.
Not a guy I like at all.
Christian Encarnacion Strand.
Ton of pop. A lot of people are concerned that or think that he'll be able to hit 300 because that's what he's done in the minors. But a guy who could legitimately be the first baseman or DH of the future and hit 30 home runs.
Touche. Sorry, Ed. I'm not used to having another producer. Boyd was traded to the Guardians for Will Benson, so I stand corrected. Yeah.
I'm the captain of this ship.
No, you're the captain. Well, if you were on the screen, I would have known that you were trying to do this. I thought you left. Maybe you had to go take a tinkle.
Well, I did hear things moving around upstairs, so I did have to check the cameras. Sorry.
Bryce Hubbard.
Bryce Hubbard, another recent draftee pitcher I've heard nothing but good things about. Have not watched him pitch. Most of the guys, like I want to see pitching low A at the high A before I start making too much of a call on them or playing high A. But yeah, not much to report yet. But I know a lot of people like him.
Cade Hunter.
Another catching option. That's all they've done is they've drafted catchers relatively high. One of them's hopefully going to hit, but it really hasn't looked like it yet.
And the last one, Ricardo Cabrera, shortstop.
This is a guy that's another complex type, Dominican Summer League, super young, super far away, but I see him all up and down rankings. Like some people are really like him and some people have him pretty far back. And I think that's mostly because that's just the nature of these 17, 18-year-olds who are playing in the Dominican. Like it's so difficult to see what they're going to be. So it doesn't really matter where he's ranked, but definitely heard good things.
All right, that's the top 20 of Keith Law. Get him out of here. And what I want to finish up with while we have you here, and we can run this as quickly as you allow us to, Clay. So this is on you. New rules for baseball. Want to get your takes on the new rules. So we'll run through the rules as they appear here from ESPN. The shift, the banning of the shift. How does Clay Snowden feel about the banning of the shift?
I think that's a good change. And we were talking about this on the fantasy show, I believe. You cannot start like running as the ball's pitched. So it's not like I can start right on the shortstop side of second base, the second it's pitched, sprint over there. So it is good, I think, overall. I'm going to be really interested to see like how much it's taken advantage of by, pull heavy lefties. Like, are their averages going to go up 5 points or are they going to go up 25 points? Like, I truly don't know. It's going to depend on the hitter, but I do think that's good for baseball. And I am all about, it's a product that we use for entertainment, and other sports change and people bitch about it. And a year later, no one ever complains about the changes again because they get used to it. Most of the time it improves the game. And the ones that haven't, they've seemed to like revert back and erase them in other sports. Baseball has not changed many rules. So I know that and anyone who's like, oh, I didn't grow up with this. Like, if you want to be baseball purist guy, go adopt the damn rules from 1869 when there was like no foul balls and shit.
If you're a baseball purist guy, when we were watching baseball, even in the 90s, which I think is the golden era of baseball, by the way, they didn't do this. They didn't run shifts. There weren't sabermetrics where they were trying to take advantage of all this stuff. They just
exactly. And you said
ran with gut.
You said that the 90s are the golden era of baseball. Is that because that's the last time the Reds won a playoff series?
No, I mean, even if the Reds hadn't won in 1990, I mean, I just think if you pull any, I know my favorite sports podcast, Dan Le Batard, they pull like 90s baseball names and everyone just like goes crazy for 90s baseball names. I mean, I legitimately think it was when baseball was at its prime.
Yeah.
But moving on, the pitch clock.
Love it. I watched it in minor league. And it doesn't like feel like it's rushed. It's just a little bit quicker in between each pitch. And it's not something that you notice in a way that's like, this kind of sucks. It's just something like as you're sitting around watching the game, you're a little bit more attentive to it because it's not 40, 45 seconds in between pitches. It's a little bit quicker. I don't think that's like a big issue at all with the overall like performance. Like I don't think pitchers are going to go from good to bad because of the pitch clock, if that makes sense.
Mhm.
But I do think overall for just watching a baseball game, that's what they're trying to improve and trying to
Wade
improve
Miley
the offense.
had some of the most impressive stuff working just very quickly, and I loved
Aesthetically
watching him pitch.
pleasing to watch
Yeah.
him pitch, right?
Yeah. Mhm.
It's just fast paced. You and I watched him pitch the no hitter.
Yeah, we were at
watched
the
our knockback Nats, right?
We did getting the best wings in the city.
It was like
Yeah,
2
right.
hours and 20 minutes, man. It was great. Big
I
fan of the
forgot
pitch
about
clock.
that. Yep.
You have to invite me that night.
Look, I got invited last minute. Clay was already there when I got invited. Pickoffs.
I'm not. I don't know how much it's going to change really. Like, so I'll just combine the base running rules if that's okay with you, Aaron.
You go for it, man.
Do you want to read the rule changes that have to do with base running or the base size?
Well, I was gonna. I mean, if you want to throw in the bigger bases with
Yeah.
that, so there is the pickoffs where after a third step off, the pitcher's charged with a balk. You have the bigger bases where the size goes from 15 to 18. And the only other thing I saw was position players pitching, which is a completely separate issue. But
Yeah.
we can combine
So-
bigger bases and the pickoffs.
Bigger bases theoretically should help with stolen bases, which is one of my favorite parts of the game is watching a stolen base. And I know what, the advanced metrics say. Again, I'm just talking about random guy who watches 5 baseball games a year probably enjoys seeing a stolen base. And so
Ricky Henderson, Kenny Lofton, like again,
It was
90s
fun.
baseball.
Yeah.
90s baseball was so much fun because of that. Like you had guys that would not be able to do anything, but even Billy Hamilton, like if he could actually get on base, would have been so much fun to watch.
It's
If
fun
they-
because you're on your toes and you're thinking, is he going to run this pitch? Is he going to run this pitch? Is he going to run? So that should help. And, the catchers are just faster. The pitches are faster. It's getting to home plate faster. The catcher pop times are better. Like, it just did make sense to steal that often because of that. So hopefully this brings the stolen base back. In terms of distance from first to second, it's a little bit shorter. Second to third, a little bit shorter. All around, a little bit shorter.
3 inches.
But so's the throw. So if I'm throwing to first base from shortstop, it's 3 inches shorter as well, right?
Yeah.
The distance it has to travel now. So I don't think that's going to be like a huge difference in terms of like players beating out infield singles necessarily. But I would love to see the stolen base return to more of a, I want to see guys stealing 50 bags a year.
I
That's just
agree.
me.
I don't know if you can call them bags anymore. You might call them boxes, but whatever.
Yeah. And about the pickoff rule, like I hate it when you're sitting there and the guy throws over 7, 8 times.
It's
That's
boring.
just
But
it's
again,
just-
if you want to see steals, which is what we're all hoping to see more of, time it. Like know when you're like use that as a weapon, not as just a keep him honest and not let him go. Like
yeah.
I'm with you.
I like all of these changes.
And
I'm not
position-
like in love with every single one, but like overall, I think it's good to make baseball a little bit more appealing. Everyone freaked out in the NBA when they put a shot clock. Oh my God. The freaking shot clock. You know what it did? It made the game a lot more entertaining. And then what did they do recently with the shot clock? Change it to that 14-second rule or whatever it is where, you lose possession, but you get it back and they don't fully reset the shot clock. More shots, more entertainment, more offense. Like it is an entertainment product that we all watch. Like if movies just started all being 3 hours long, I don't know if we'd like movies as much, right? Like it's okay to change the entertainment product as time goes on to fit people's, I guess, interests.
Yeah, a lot of the MCU does 3 hours, but they're on a different whole different level from everybody else. So
Don't get Ed started with that.
I know. Clay, you have been a gem as always. We love you so very much. So excited to see everything that you're doing with Just Baseball. Happy to hear that you have a podcast now, something I need to add to my list.
And a puppy.
And a new addition to the family as well. That makes a family of the wolf pack of one has now somehow become a family of three. So congratulations
That's right.
on everything, sir.
Hey, let's not make it as long until I come back on next time.
Well, baseball season is upon us, so I can promise you we will be hitting you up.
Awesome. All right. Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye, Clay.
Bye.
And that was Clay Snowden. Again, you can find him on Just Baseball or at Clay_SNO. All right, Ed. Let's finish our conversation and get out of here. UC plays Temple.
They play Temple tomorrow night.
And they played UCF on Sunday. So in chronological order, let's get to. Well, I guess we can even talk about. Do you want to talk about East Carolina?
Let's not talk about East Carolina. It's just a horrible idea to talk about East Carolina.
So done with Greenville.
Who, by the way, is winning against Tulsa right now with 7 seconds left on the clock.
That's bananas. But East Carolina, never again, unless we somehow match up with them in the AAC or the NCAA tournament, NIT tournament in the future, whether this season or beyond. But
I also think there are more fans at XFL games this weekend than there are in this Tulsa arena right now.
That's probably accurate.
Yeah.
UCF, though, on Sunday, Cincinnati pulled it out.
Yeah.
On the buzzer beater by David DeJulius. They win 73-71. What was your takeaway from this one in Orlando?
Hustle. No quit this time. I think, last time or against ECU, there was maybe a little bit of quit. I don't want to say a lot of quit. I think they hustled all through that game, but I think there was a little bit of maybe slowing down, maybe kind of.
I'm blaming the ghost of ECU, who the announcer, their Dan Horde, passed away.
Loss of confidence. I think that's what I'm looking for. And
loss of life
against ECU.
And a ghost helped them win. Angels in the outfield style.
Yeah, well, there's that too. But we came out against UCF. 5 players in double digits. Landers Nolly with 18, and somebody on Twitter said Landers Nolly didn't play very well, and he agreed with them. So
Landers Nolly.
That's what I said.
Nollies.
Would you?
You did the Kevin Johnson. Landers Nollies, Landers.
Well, it's because I was going to say Lander Nolly said, and then so it is there's a shortage on ADHD medicine right now, okay? And so
that's not a me problem. It's becoming a me problem, but it's not a me problem.
It's a me problem. David Julius was 16, Odie with 15. Nice game by Odie, by the way.
7-7.
Yeah. Kalu with 12. Nice seeing Kalu come out of the shell a little bit there. And Micah Adams Wood with 10. Davenport with only 2. That was kind of weird. And everybody else just.
Davenport only shot the ball 5 or 8 times. No, that's Micah's line. 5 times. 5 times. 4 threes because of course. 0 for 4, and the only points he had was the offensive rebound putback.
But he did have 6 rebounds, which was second on the team for highest rebounds behind Kalu Zepe. So he still contributed.
Tied with Kalu.
That's what I meant to say. Yeah, tied. Sorry.
But Cincinnati out-hustled 31-24 on the rebounds. 73-71 is your score. Again, it was I've talked about this game, I think my 3rd or 4th time now talking about it. So I apologize if I'm a little lackluster here. But they did what they needed to do against a good team, and they shut down a future NBA player in Taylor Hendricks. Not completely, but they held him 4 of 10 from the field, 12 points, 4 rebounds on a guy that he had over 20 in the last time they matched up. He's good.
Yeah.
and the bigs were able to figure it out. You mentioned Odie and Kalu. I think that was the story of the game as those dudes worked their
Gotta
ass
step
off.
up.
They have not had the best season if
Have
you look
not.
at it as a whole. But as Chad and I talked about on the nightcap tonight, culture has overcome on this team, and I think the culture that Wes Miller is building is seriously shining through with guys like Odie, guys like Kalu, as he has not given up on them. They have not given up on him, and you are
Good to see.
seeing. We've seen, even with Brandon, we saw guys giving up. Sorolla and
Oh yeah.
um,
My guy sold his Mini Cooper and just left.
and there's no way that dude drove a Mini.
It's possible. No, you're right.
He was 7'2". Come on, man.
Toyota Corolla.
Okay, all right.
Jay
Sorolla?
Sorolla.
Sorolla. Of course he did. But also Rap was gone. He quit on
Yeah.
Brandon as well. And I think obviously different cultures.
And it's
Can I
go ahead.
hot take? I didn't get the hot take last night because I missed the basketball discussion.
hot take away.
Of the games that they've lost or they've let leads get away, like we saw them, they let a 9-point lead get away in the final 5-6 minutes. They let a 5-point lead get away in the final minute. We've seen that too many times, right? This is the worst they played.
Oh yeah, they did not play good.
No. You're like when it comes to holding a lead down the stretch.
UCF?
No, I'm talking
Yeah.
UC.
You see, this is the worst they played down the stretch.
When I turned the game on, in the car,
Did you not watch Jeremiah Davenport just chuck a pass out of bounds? Did you not watch Landers Nolly turn it over 4 times down the stretch?
Against ECU, they didn't score for what was the 6 minutes?
But I see you look at it different than me.
I
If
do.
you take good shots and you don't score, I don't consider that playing bad.
But if you take bad shots and you score, you still scored.
But they didn't take any shots because they threw the ball all over the fucking place.
They did do that.
a lot of turnovers.
But the difference being, this is the one where they hit the last shot. So everybody, this is sports psychology, right? When you hit the last shot, everybody forgets about all that other stuff.
Well, there were 2 things that happened. They hit the last shot, and West called a timeout, because that's been the big complaint all over Twitter and Facebook.
Which, if you listen to what Wes said,
he called it because there wasn't a look. The look
because
wasn't there.
they couldn't get the ball to Dave.
Yep.
What I have said many times is that they had what they wanted. They got what they wanted, so they didn't need to call a timeout. Like if you go back to Lane,
yeah,
everybody yelled about he didn't call a timeout. Well, there was a review right before the final play. He didn't have to call a timeout. He had the team over there. They got the ball to Dave. They got what they wanted. Maybe Dave didn't get the right shot in that look or that setting, but he's not calling a timeout there because as a coach, he got what he wanted.
Yeah.
They didn't get what they wanted in that last set against ECU because Darius Johnson was denying Dave the ball. So Dave couldn't get the ball, and then when Dave couldn't get the ball, they called a timeout. The guy that deserves credit on that final play that's not getting it is Odie. We did talk about this in the nightcap.
Ball screen?
He set a phenomenal screen on the out-of-bounds play to get Dave free. If Odie doesn't set that screen, Dave is denied the ball.
Again.
So even if he catches it, the defender is right there on him. Because Odie set that screen, Dave caught the ball, and the defender has to kind of regroup, right? He's not in a position to really pressure.
Right.
But ultimately, over the final minute, if you want to look at the final minute, 90 seconds of that game, that was a disaster. They just happened to hit the last shot.
You're right.
And because they hit the last shot, there have been other games where I think they got more of what they wanted in the final minute and a half, they got the shots they wanted that weren't turnovers. Like, you can give me your sourpuss look all you want, Aaron, but I would rather get an open shot than have somebody throw the ball out of bounds and give it to the other team where you don't get a shot. They had go back and watch, Aaron. Go back and watch those 90 seconds. I've done it. It wasn't good. It wasn't good. But Dave made the play at the end. So now we're not talking about the it wasn't good. We're talking about all of a sudden they got it right. Well, see, if they would have just done what I said 3 weeks ago, they would have won 3 of those games.
I didn't do that.
Not you, but I'm talking about the general.
I'm saying the entire second half felt different. UCF versus ECU. And I don't think you could argue that. Again,
because ECU they out tough Cincinnati.
Correct. And I
called that out immediately.
Well, and that was what
I'm
we
talking
talked about.
The close of the game. The final 90 seconds.
And that's fine, but a game is its entirety. And Cincinnati.
But you can talk about a segment of the game.
Sure.
We're a podcast.
All right. I'm agreeing with you in that sense.
Okay.
I'm saying my take was that they made the offensive rebounds when they needed to. They made the defensive stops when they needed to.
Yeah, they did.
And
denying that. No denying that.
And again, for me, the ECU game was just different in that they went 6 minutes or whatever it was. It was at least 4 without scoring a single point. And that was the demise of a 16-point lead versus 9.
The ECU game was a disaster. And and
like
I said about that game, I felt like with 9 minutes when they were up 16, they have no business being up 16 because ECU is outworking them. Even at that point in that game when UC was up 16, ECU was dominating on the glass. Like they were just there was a lot of like the smaller metrics in that game.
I think we agree on that point.
Yeah, but I'm just saying over this stretch of
the last
games where they've struggled, they finished the UCF game poorly, but Dave hit the shot. So because Dave hit the shot, then you don't. That's the nature of what I always talk about. Like the difference in me is I try to talk about what's happening without watching the ball.
And we were honest about in our assessment.
Yeah.
We were honest about they did not take care of the ball well the entire of the game.
No, it was terrible.
15 turnovers is abhorrent.
And it was at its worst in the final 90 seconds.
Well, I mean, I feel like it was basically when did they start doing the full court press? Was it
right about 2 minutes, 90 seconds, right around desperation time?
Micah bounces one off his foot, and JD throws one out of bounds. Like it was
Landers throws one out of bounds or gets nudged and lands out of bounds on a ball that never should have been thrown.
Probably should
into that spot.
Probably should have also been called a foul.
But you don't throw the ball there.
I don't disagree, but
like you deal with the consequences. If you throw the ball there in a trapping situation at the end
at that moment, it did not feel good watching it in real time.
Right.
I'm with you.
We're not too far off here, but what I'm saying is like the conversation is different because Dave made the shot. If Dave doesn't make the shot, but that's how silly
the outcome is also different because Dave made the shot.
Right. But that's how silly some of these conversations get. Because, Wes has to be fired because the player got the shot that they wanted and didn't make it.
If people are calling for Wes to be fired the same year that he just signed a 4-year extension, then
they're not. Maybe even not. He needs to be fired, but he's not the guy. I'm more convinced now than ever. Like I saw a bunch of that.
People are telling me that we should fire Wes and go after Chris Beard.
Yeah, who just beat up his wife.
But was acquitted of charges
because she wouldn't cooperate.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I was trying to pull up a stat that here it is.
Ed,
UC Barstool tweeted because everybody wants to talk about Miller should be fired. In Huggins' first 2 years, 38 and 26, no tournament. Cronin's first 2 years, 24 and 38, no tournament. Miller's first 2 years with multiple games left, 35 and 25, no tournament. So we gave them time. Why can't we give West time?
Because now
I'm
is
just
a
speaking to the
different
fan
time
base.
on the internet. Like,
Right.
Because-
Because it's Amazon. It's fucking Amazon's
Well-
fault. Everyone wants instantaneous shit. You know what I mean? Like
I
my
mean-
son just bought a card off of eBay. He's like, "Is it here yet, Dad?" I was like, "No, you just ordered it 2 hours ago."
Also, legacies. I mean, everyone remembers what they did at the end, or the
Exactly.
entirety,
Right.
not
Exactly.
what they did at the beginning, and what it took to build everything.
but Thrifty Walrus, you're missing the point. It's not that how many shots.
Thrifty
you see
Walrus
that
is
up.
here for the joke, not,
I know.
not the point.
I know. But the point being, we will call out if they're taking bad shots. We will call out if they're making bad passes. We will call out if they're disjointed and not making. If they're what do we call out a ton early in this season? They're playing too much ISO ball. This
There
team
was
needs the ball to pop.
There were no assists.
No,
Yeah,
They
right.
didn't pass the ball
And
at
this
all.
is a shooting team, a jump shooting team without drivers. So in order to be successful with the jump shooting team without drivers, and this is where I'm going to strangle you at some point, Ed, if you don't stop. Yeah, you. Yeah, don't me. The point I was getting at all along is if you have a team that's not good at driving the basketball, not good in playing in isolation, don't continue to ask them to do that because we know the answer. They're not good at it. Dave didn't drive to the rim for a reason. He's not good at driving to the rim. He pulled up one-handed from 15 feet. Do you think the free throw line is a layup, Ed?
No, I wasn't calling for a layup, but it wasn't an erratic three. If you go back and listen to that podcast, what I was talking about was the erratic three. He shot a
They
three
don't
where his-
take who
like
have they
an arm was
taken erratic
flying.
threes?
it was
Dave
a bad,
took a step back three against Tulane. You know what he takes 6 of a game? That shot.
Just
That's
generally,
his shot.
generally it's usually somewhere in the 18 to 20 range, not the 3. But he
A lot of his
does.
threes are still step back threes.
He just
step
doesn't
back
take a whole
shots.
lot of. He doesn't take a whole lot of threes. He takes more long
Yeah.
twos, which is
18, 17-foot twos. But he makes more of them than pretty much anybody in the game.
And I know that the long 2 drives you insane because why not just make it a little bit further back and get the extra point because
Well,
the
when
3
you're
is worth more than a 2.
separate, here's actually you know what, Ed, I'll explain it to you this way. Do you know why David DeJulius relies on the step back?
because it creates space.
It creates separation.
Yeah,
You
separation.
know what he can't do if he
Shoot.
doesn't rely on the step back?
Create separation. But you can at least
So the reason that it works against Darius Johnson, I'll give this to you, Ed. He had a guy on Sunday that it works against because it's a similar guy. Darius Johnson is 6'1". He's 190 pounds. We'll get to that. We'll get to that. Because I'm not going to say Ed's wrong. But we'll get to that in a second.
okay. All right, cool.
Dave needs to create separation via playing sideways. Like, that's how he creates separation. He does not create separation downhill. Now, if you go back and watch that play, how did he create separation, Ed? With a nasty sideways crossover
Yeah,
that Darius Johnson thought was going to be a step back 3, right?
yeah.
And
And then
he
he
played
also
off of
stopped
it.
on a dime to pull that up.
And then went right
Yeah.
and stopped at 15 foot and hit the floater.
Yeah, the guy
No, I
fell back,
didn't
yeah.
go to the rim because that's not who he is. That's not what he's good at.
But if you saw my tweet, I actually called for Landers to get that ball and drive it because I was just
But
hoping for a foul. I was
Landers
just hoping
turned it
for a
over
foul.
6 times.
He 7
doing
times.
that.
Yeah.
They were the 7th time was on the full court press.
Okay, all right.
But like they were trying to go to Landers to get him to create a little bit more downhill. They've done that with him in the mid post, like we talked about. And he missed like I think it was it ECU where he went 1 for 5? Yeah. It was ECU where he went 1 for 5 down the stretch as they were feeding him in the mid post. It's just not a downhill team. And that's okay. Like, you have to be honest with yourself about the talent on the team. This is not a roster built to play downhill. That was my point to Dave. Dave's point was, I don't give a shit. I want wins. Which
I understand Dave's point. Though,
I understand Dave's point.
We all do.
But my job is to break down the basketball.
Yeah.
Like, that's why I've spent thousands of hours in the gym watching practices and like understanding
I thought you were
the
going to say something else.
basketball. Like, that's my job. That's why I'm here. That's
No, I understand.
part of what
But
people pay for.
I understand.
But you keep wanting to pick a fight.
Well, no, I don't want to pick a fight. I'm going
send
back to
me
Tulane.
stupid memes and gifts.
I sent you the heart meme.
After I told you, Ed, I don't want to do this to you. Please stop. You keep poking at me, and you're going to get dunked on. And I don't want to do that. I like you, Ed.
I actually didn't see your text until after I had to go to Kroger's and pick up water, and then the boys wanted to play basketball.
I'm trying to explain to you, man. Like, don't put me in that situation because you know what? How long have you followed me on Twitter, Ed?
A very long time.
What
Long
do I
enough
do?
to know. You don't do this. Chad has spent thousands of hours in the gym working on his handle and step back, and that's why he's so.
I have no handle. I have no step back. I'm old and I'm fat. I just know what to look for.
I tried to step back on my boys on Saturday. It didn't work.
All right, give me 1 second, and we'll talk about the steak. Like, I'll be back in like 90 seconds.
Go get your
sounds
refill.
I need to get a refill. Tonight is a Chad night.
All right, Ed. In the meantime,
bad
Ed,
night.
let's talk about this. We have Temple on Wednesday. We have Memphis on Sunday. And then a week off before SMU to close it out on Sunday. Selection Sunday.
Yeah.
No, that's not Selection Sunday.
March 5th is not.
Selection Sunday is at the end of the conference tournaments.
I'm saying for the conference tournament. Selection Sunday.
That's not Selection Sunday.
It's not the
It
same.
is for our.
It's not the same. You can't,
Aaron, just eat it. You were wrong. Just eat it. It's okay. The 12th is Selection Sunday.
Whatever.
So.
I digress.
So,
I was muted.
let's
so-
win it out. Let's win it out.
Temple, obviously, we lost to them earlier in the season. Memphis,
61 to
again,
70.
lost to them earlier in the season as well.
I don't want to lose to Memphis again. I hate losing to Memphis.
Yeah, but we have Temple at home this time. They're playing without Khalil Battle, as he is currently not with the team.
And it sounds like maybe Vic will be back because it sounded like Vic wanted to play against UCF, but didn't get a chance to practice.
Again, we talked about culture and Khalil Battle not with the team because he is pissed that Khalif Battle, sorry. I thought it was Khalil. Had some issue. You're right. Receiver once upon a time for the Bearcats.
Yeah, he scored 14 points against Bearcats last
he
time,
did.
by the way.
He did. And he's had issues with Aaron McKee and the team and has been told to stay home, at least in their last game. We'll see if he makes the trip with Temple or not. He may not be with the team. But again, we talk about culture, and that's the culture that Wes Miller has built, where he has not had guys give up on him and the team. This is a big one for Wes. Has not beat Temple in his career yet. He's 0-3. This is the last chance because, God willing, we don't have to play Temple again. Obviously, in the tournament potentially, but outside of that, this will be the last regular season matchup against Temple for the foreseeable future.
As it stands right now, they are tied for 4th, which means they would play in the 4-5 game.
Well, and even if Cincinnati passes them for the 4 and Temple
They would
remains
play
the
in the
5,
4-5
they'd still play. Cincinnati, however, has an opportunity to move up to the 3 if they should beat both Temple and Memphis loses to both Cincinnati and Houston.
Correct. And SMU. UC has to win out.
Correct.
Let's do it. I mean, let's just go ahead and do it. I mean, bring
Could
Vic
take
back.
Obviously.
Bring Vic back. You hope that
We were out rebounded by
Obi-
18 the last time they played Temple.
I was just looking at that.
That was kind of the game that changed the direction of the season, if we're being honest.
It
Because
was
that's when Cincinnati all of a sudden started rebounding and playing defense and like being tough, like being the team that we had not seen them be through November and December.
It sucks that they had to play on New Year's Day at
Yep.
3 on a Sunday when people. Also, there was a Bengals game, so people weren't there.
It was a
I don't
snow
remember-
game too, wasn't it?
I was gonna say I don't remember if there was weather issues as well, potentially.
I think there's weather issues that game because they were calling for students to come in. Like, if you're on campus, come in.
Was it that game? That was 7 weeks ago. I don't know that was there weren't students on campus because
Yeah, students weren't on campus.
break.
Okay, maybe it wasn't snow day.
I think the snow game you're talking about is Memphis.
You're right,
Yes.
it was Memphis.
Yes.
But
That and the first Temple game was in Philly.
There's that.
So that
There's that.
I mean, just an observation.
semantics. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
Just an observation. Just an observation.
Potatoes, potatoes.
In any case, I think you're right. I said this earlier when we did the nightcap. Obviously, you weren't there, but the Bigs are playing way better. I don't foresee us getting out rebounded. We're 13-3 at home this season. I'll be shocked, honestly, if Temple out rebounds us in this one.
Well, look, they maybe they out rebound you, but it needs to be by like 2, right? Not like 18. 18 is a problem.
Well, what did Brent say the record of this team is in the 15 games that they've been?
It's ridiculous when they out rebound the other team and really bad when they don't.
Yeah. So obviously a big one. It is the Firecrackers jump rope halftime show. And
I
don't know
saw
what
that.
Ooh, that's a big one.
I
That's
don't know
a
what
good
their-
one.
I don't know what their record is when it's the Firecrackers jump rope halftime show, but I feel like it's probably good.
I think it's pretty good. Yeah, I would assume it's pretty good.
It's no dogs catching frisbees and it's no monkeys riding dogs. But
No, it's my favorite. I think it's my favorite halftime show
Ooh, but
I agree.
of the
It just makes you feel
basketball of the basketball halftime shows. Firecrackers is circled every year.
I think it's
no, it's
Firecrackers
good.
and then the Dogs.
Yeah, that's fine.
Well, the
I
Dogs
just
is also
feel
the same
bad for
time
the
the
dogs
monkey
because
rides
I
back.
see them backstage and they're just in like carrying crates.
Oh,
I feel bad for them.
well, that's probably because they're about to just
I know
so
that doesn't
much energy.
So
that
excited.
doesn't mean I can't feel bad for them that
I
they're
get
just
it.
like stuck there in a cage.
The dog
waiting
show is when
to-
the monkey rides on their back too, right? Like they do
That's
the
only
frisbees
happened-
and stuff, but
That's only happened at the Bengals game, and I don't know.
no,
that
I
that's
feel like Mo's tweeted about a monkey riding on the back of a dog at a basketball game before.
I don't think that's happened outside of the Bengals
I don't
game.
remember it.
And
I'm
I
gonna
think
have
that only
to, I'm
happened
gonna have
once.
to text Mo.
Yeah, that was the Bengals game as well. Stiff arming a 10-year-old into the
That
shadow.
was also a Bengals game when they had all the mascots there.
That was hilarious.
I wonder if that was my boy Chris. I can't remember which Bearcat. Well, I never.
And the comment for those listening is my favorite halftime moment was the Bearcat stiff arming a 10-year-old into the shadow realm. Well played.
Real quick, since we're talking about like what the halftime show is and stuff like that as part of the record, what sneakers do we think Wes will wear?
Don't care.
$950 sneakers because he paid $950 for them.
Because he's a baller.
Because he's a G, and real G's move in silence.
Chris Laporte tweeting
That
back
cares?
at
That was the
Who
snapback of
cares?
the century.
that was hilarious. And then his response.
Well, that
to
was
me,
his snapback.
Chief of the staff description: protect Wes Miller footwear slander at all times.
Who cares?
That's hilarious.
Why?
UCF fans were like, "Look, bro, you're an idiot." That's when you know that like a UCF fan has crossed the line.
I like the tweet back today that I saw where they took pictures of Johnny Dawkins wearing
That happened the same day. Yeah.
$55.
Oh boy,
shoes.
love it.
Anyway,
I love it.
Twitter's a wild deal.
all right. So Ed, what do you got? 2-1, 3-0. What do you expect?
No, I'm calling. Hey, this is why I don't. This is why I don't
3-0
sports gamble often.
3-0 is a tall task.
I'm calling 3-0.
Okay, Ed. So here's what you do.
I'm not placing bets. I only have a dollar
Ed,
left in my
listen,
account.
listen. You can do this. You can do this. $20 money line, Bearcats over Temple. If they win, you roll
Ride
it
it.
over to Memphis money
Ride
line.
it.
And if they win, you roll it over to SMU
Ride
money
it.
line. And you ride it, and you see if that $20 can get you like $200 or $50 or $100 or whatever it'll end up being.
Also, if you are betting, make sure you go to Betfred and download and use the promo code Bearcats. Bearcat, singular.
All
sorry.
caps. Bearcat, all singular caps.
This is why I practice this here before we're doing the actual big one.
Yeah. Betfred promo code Bearcat, all caps. That's our new go-to. We got rid of the crazy link. We got rid of the 111. Betfred has been great. They have been working with my unreasonable requests to make things as easy for our members as possible. Go to betfred.com or go to the app. When you sign up, there will be towards the end of the registration, there will be a line for promo code Bearcat, all caps.
There's no option for money line.
Yeah, it's not up yet. It'll go up tomorrow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the last thing I want to bring up before we talk about you and your steak, last topic, Bearcats football lost three coaches. Lost three coaches this week.
Hired 3 coaches a day after a coach was decided to leave. That's impressive for Scott Satterfield. Like, he's got the Rolodex ready to go.
Well, it's
okay, you're gonna leave. New guy is on a plane on his way to Cincinnati tomorrow.
And it's not like he lost it to another college. He lost them to the Colts.
Well, they did lose 2 linebacker coaches to colleges, but one was a defensive coordinator, and then one was a guy that's from South Florida going back to South Florida.
What? What?
He said what I was going to say. We lost defensive coordinator to Troy.
Yeah. Okay.
Well,
that's fine.
not our defensive coordinator. We lost a linebacker.
He was a linebackers coach.
To become promoted to the DC at Troy, and we lost a linebackers coach who went to Miami.
And Luke lost a tight ends coach this week, so it's all good.
Oh, I love how much you drive Aaron crazy. I just I try to warn you, Ed. That's my thing. I try to warn you that you don't want this smoke.
Sometimes. Scott has people back in the fold. Have they been formally announced? What are we doing?
No, they haven't been formally announced.
But people are in the fray.
If you'd like to know all the answers, they're on Bearcat Journal. They've got the defensive coordinator from Georgia State is coming to Cincinnati to be the outside linebackers coach.
Why are we saying this? We want
mean?
People to go to.
Because I put it on Twitter.
Because there's 6 people watching, and
the
by tomorrow,
6 possible members.
Well, I broke the news. I broke the news on Twitter on the offensive coordinator, who's coming from Virginia Tech. He was their quarterbacks coach and passing game coordinator. He is coming to be the offensive coordinator here at Cincinnati. He has been an offensive coordinator before and had a lot of success. So yeah, all the spots are already filled. They had 3 guys leave, 1 last week. They replaced him with a linebackers coach coming from, I believe, Army. And then they had 2 guys leave yesterday. The 2 new guys were in place today. So say what you will. Yes, it is unfortunate losing 3 coaches 2 weeks before the start of spring practice. But Scott Satterfield was ready. And that's all you can ask for. You don't want it to feel like a coach is scrambling. Like he's out of his element, and there's, all of a sudden he starts hiring and promoting GAs or
what he said last week on your show, that
Bearcat Journal podcast. Yes.
Yeah, that it's like his quiet time. So, instead of having a little quiet time, he said go find some coaches.
Yeah. Ed, let's talk steak.
Yeah. Okay. So Thrifty Wallace.
But let me ask the questions here.
Would like to have Chad's thoughts on Ed saying the best steak he's ever eaten in his life he made. I'm still taken aback by that.
Where did you buy this steak?
It would have been a fillet that I bought from Sam's Club. That's where I would have bought the meat. Yes.
I don't even like steak, and I know that's not the answer.
No, I'm sorry, not a fillet. Yeah, it was a fillet.
Okay, so I will say this: Sam's Club and Costco
Have good steaks. They have good
have
meat.
decent steaks.
Well, okay.
They're like I would probably buy
Wouldn't slander them
Sam's
like
Club and Costco steaks before I would buy run-of-the-mill Kroger steaks, by and large.
that. Oh, I don't generally, and no offense to Kroger, but I don't generally purchase steaks from Kroger.
So what I would say is,
I'm thoroughly enjoying Thrifty Walrus's live recaps as this is happening. By the way, please continue.
Ed,
Yeah.
let me ask you this.
It wasn't Wagyu, if that's your.
Well, yeah, because I was going to say
We all knew that.
Yeah.
one of the
I
I
could probably
have.
get that though from Sam's Club if I wanted to.
I don't
You
think
can't.
so. Not like legit,
Mm-mm.
Down the
not
street to
real
Lear's, son.
actual Wagyu.
I'll go over to Hammond's or I'll go down the street to Lear's and I can get that.
No, you want me to tell you the best place to
Yeah.
get a
Well-
great steak?
Is it over in Newport?
No,
Okay.
Everett's is closed
Yeah. So it's a bummer.
for good. I'm sad. I'm very sad. I've still got a couple things left in my freezer from Everett's, and like each one as I make it, I'm like Sammy Sosa. This is my favorite butcher ever. But
Pouring one
Ed,
out for your homies.
oh, I'm so sad. I'm so sad about Everett's being closed. Ed,
Yeah.
do you go to Jungle Gyms at all?
Yeah. There's a Jungle Gyms out here in Eastgate.
Yes. So,
The worst.
are you
Jungle Gyms.
aware? Well, but it's still okay. But it's still, if you are aware of what I'm about to tell you, a great, like the best option in
What
the
do they
city.
have?
There is a butcher counter in the far back corner of Jungle Gyms, kind of by the fish.
Yes.
If
very
you
small.
it's very small and it's easy to miss.
Yeah. That's where I got my pork belly.
They have phenomenal Wagyu beef.
Yeah. It's a very small case, right? I know exactly what you're talking about.
There's one strip of strips. There's one little
But how much
thing
is a
of strips.
Wagyu?
One, it's expensive.
Go to
That's what I'm
the
talking about.
go to the good Jungle Gyms when you're out visiting mom and dad in Fairfield.
But Ed,
Yeah.
if you get your steaks from there, you will have the ability to cook one of the best steaks you've ever had at home. Now, this was also when I had an infrared grill.
I used to have one of those.
We're getting away from the point. You need to ask him more questions on why this steak was the best steak of his life.
I'm telling him now first, if you want to have the best steak of your life cooked at home, where in Cincinnati to go get it and then prepare it on an infrared grill where you cook it like 2 minutes on a side and it's done.
He only has a smoker and a Blackstone.
You can cook a great steak on a pellet grill.
Well, yeah, you could do that too, but
David, man, I've never seen you make a comment before. Welcome to the show.
David knows. I'm not kidding about this. The steaks from the butcher counter at Jungle Gyms are as good as you will get in the city for cooking at home. As good as you will get. And you can do them on a pellet grill, Aaron. You can get a pellet grill up to about 500 degrees.
oh yeah, you could do it on a pellet grill, sure.
It's not going to be the same as an infrared that you
It's a
can
dangerous
get
game.
700.
A
You get
dangerous game.
700 scorching hot. You cook that thing for like 90 seconds aside, and it's perfect.
I'll take
Well,
an
why
iron
not?
skillet.
You could.
I take it.
Yeah,
I
you
would
do
take
a
an
s-
iron. I would take an
cast
iron.
iron.
Yeah, I would take cast iron skillet over a smoker. I agree.
Oh, you can put the cast iron on the
A pellet
Blackstone.
grill is not a smoker, Aaron. It's a grill that can smoke.
It can't. Yes, exactly.
Well,
There's
I'm
a
thinking,
difference.
I'm thinking my stand-up smoker. And
Yeah, you don't want to cook it on a smoker that maxes out at 325 degrees. Like you can get a pellet grill up to
Ooh.
500.
Okay, so David Mann, St. Elmo's seasoning. I've had St. Elmo's. I had it in July. Michelle and I went to Indianapolis for our anniversary, ate at St. Elmo's, and I wasn't impressed.
Ed, holy cow.
I had just 6 months earlier been to Ruby's
No,
precinct.
that's the seasoning
No.
he's talking about.
Holy cow.
Holy cow is the seasoning.
Meat
Oh,
church.
yeah. Oh,
Holy
I have
cow
holy cow.
seasoning.
I have holy
That's-
cow, and I have
Use that on your steaks. Holy cow, holy gospel.
See, I like this little salt pepper.
Well, but holy
Maybe a
cow
little-
is
maybe a
very
little seasoning salt.
holy cow is very heavy pepper. It's a very
Okay,
coarse
all right.
grind of pepper. It's a very heavy pepper steak seasoning.
It's also very mild for white people.
It
See,
is.
that's the thing, though. Like, us white people don't put enough seasoning on our meat.
No, holy cow is perfect if you're doing a really good cut because it's basic, but it is very pepper forward. Like you get the coarse ground, like you get a good. It's toothsome.
Gotcha.
If you
All
will.
right.
Okay.
I have actually just
But you did not buy the best steak you've ever had.
oh, the best steak I've ever had on my grill. Yeah, no, it was from Sam's Club. I'll
That just
stand by
means
that all day.
you're not buying the right steak.
it's a sirloin fillet, dude. How is that not a good steak? It's not Wagyu. I'm sorry, but it's a
But
good
you're buying
steak.
it from Sam's Club. It's not a great quality.
It comes from a cow.
But the quality of cow matters. The quality
Thank
of
you,
cow
David.
matters.
I understand the quality of cow matters, but I get some great steaks from Sam's Club.
You get some good steaks from Sam's Club.
I get some great steaks from Sam's Club.
No, you don't.
I will agree with you that those steaks over at Jungle Jim's do look amazing, and maybe one day I'll splurge a little bit more for one of those.
Erroneous on all counts.
You will not splurge for one of those. They look great, but you're not going to buy one.
I just bought a pair of Jordans. I might splurge on them. I might walk in there with my Jordans on, plop my wallet down, and go, one of those
Give me one of them
Wagyus, please.
$40 steaks. JD, I love. JD says skip the BS, go to Eckerline. With Everett's closed, Eckerline is my favorite butcher in the city.
Eckerline is who provides Rob with his burgers.
I love Eckerline. I think the dry aged steaks, the dry aged Wagyu at Jungle Jim's is better. I do.
Thrifty Walrus. I mean, the Sam's Club.
I
does
love
have some
Eckerline.
steaks with
Like
some
I
nice
go to
quality.
Eckerline regularly and get a shit ton of really good meat.
The chat agrees.
But I think if you're going to go for like a high-end homemade steak, I go to Jungle Jim's and get the dry-aged Wagyu that they have in the butcher counter.
You do understand? I have a butcher connection, right?
So let's
Okay, then why are you going to Sam's to buy your
Well,
steaks?
because it's all out in Fairfield.
let's wrap up this steak talk. So
Out in Fairfield where Jungle Jim's is.
I got an Eastgate one.
What made everything about this steak the best, Ed?
Oh, it was had the correct amount of seasoning on it, had the correct cook time on it. The rest was perfect. It was just the steak itself was great quality meat. It was a great steak, dude. It was butter. Like you slice into it, butter. Put that in your mouth, butter. Melted.
Revisionist history.
It was also 2020. And I hadn't left the house.
A bad day.
And he never knew if he
bad day.
He didn't know if he'd ever have another steak again.
Right? Right?
There was a cardinal in the tree, and I kept yelling, "The Cardinals suck."
I at the same time I was Clorox wiping every package that came in.
I used to Clorox spray on that.
All of my groceries were Clorox wiped.
Maybe that's what it was, is he wiped that steak in Clorox and sprayed it.
Actually,
Most people put like a little olive oil or like a little oil on their steak before they season it and put Clorox.
well,
It actually made him trip for 36 hours. That's why it's the best steak he's ever had.
a former government official once said that maybe we should eat Clorox to get rid of it.
That quote's already been debunked, but go on with your bad
It
self.
was there. But
All right, that's gonna wrap it up. That was another episode. of
anything else to talk
Pardon the
about? All right.
That was another episode of Pardon the Punctuation. We appreciate all of you who joined us. Some of you came
And
in
FC
late.
Cincinnati starts Saturday.
They start this Saturday against Houston Dynamo.
Danamo.
You
That's
have to
Dano. You're thinking of Dano's, the seasoning guy from Texas.
I got some of that stuff upstairs.
If you're gonna talk soccer, you have to figure out what the names are before you just blunder that, man.
Ed, did
Hey,
you
Aaron,
watch wrestling?
Go back and listen to some of our original
you know-
podcasts, and you go ahead and tell me about the names. You
I
couldn't
let-
pronounce Coach Koch's name for
I let that go a long time ago.
Did I watch wrestling?
Wasn't there a major pay-per-view yesterday?
Saturday, I think. It was not Hell in a Cell. It was
Elimination Chamber?
yeah, Elimination Chamber. I did not watch that, but I did watch one hell of a
You gotta let me get him on the spot first.
Kevin Owens released one hell of a promo.
But you didn't watch it.
The other night. No, I watched it on Twitter. It's actually I
promo.
retweeted it. So if you go to my Twitter page, it's on there. You'll see it.
Aaron, get us out of here.
We'll see you next week. Tuesday night, 9:15. Thanks, everybody. I don't know what we're doing here. See ya!
Ba-da-ba.